Hey everyone, and welcome to today's version of Techy Tuesday. I am Heather, and I'm with the Livingston Parish Technology Department. I will let my co-people introduce themselves. Go ahead, Nikki.
I'm Nikki Laverne. I'm also in the technology department, and I am super pumped to learn about Jamboard today because I am not good at it.
And I'm Lynn Kennedy, and I'm with the technology department, and I'm ready to see what Amanda's got for us today.
And Amanda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Amanda Robinson. I work at Doyle Elementary, 5th grade, for a very long time.
So she is an awesome elementary teacher as far as integrating technology into the classroom, and Jamboard is her jam. Excuse the pun, it was totally intended. Fun fact, files from Jamboard are called jams. So she's going to take us today and show us how to use these and integrate them into our lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and share your screen if you want to click on the first slide that you're going to start on. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in our comments and let us know either on Facebook or Twitter. And we do have the presentation. I'll drop a link in a moment. And keep in mind that this will live at this channel at this link forever. So if you have friends you want to share this with, if you want to come back and rewatch it, do not hesitate to do so. All right, my dear, we're going to let you go.
Okay, do I look good? Am I on the first slide?
Perfect.
Yep,
Right.
go ahead and start go.
So what is Jamboard? It's something that we already have. It's free. We have it through G Suite for Education. So if you're a Google Classroom user, you have access to it. It's basically a digital whiteboard with some collaboration tools. You can use it collaboratively, but you can also use it for individual assignments and assessments. Where can I find it? So you can find it in a few different ways. If you go into, let me get to my drive. You go into your waffle, either way, into your waffle, you'll see a bunch of stuff, right? Which Heather reminded me you can move around, which I forgot about that. That's cool. And Jamboard's right here. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll find it right here. You can open it that way. And it'll be loading your jam files. Or you can just simply go to jamboard.google.com and get to it that way. Or if you know that you're starting with a fresh one, instead of pressing this little orange button, which would start you a new jam, you can just put in jam.new. It'll start you off with a fresh Jamboard. Okay. It kind of looks like a Google slide, but it's a little less options, which is actually better for some of my elementary students. Google Slides has got a lot of options, and sometimes we just get too distracted. So that's what that is. Like I said, my name is Amanda Robinson. I have my email address here and my Twitter handle if you need to contact me about anything. So to move from slide to slide, I call them slides, but they're also called frames or jams in this case, but it's the frame for the jam. Right up here, you see I have 8 of them. If I expand that, you can see all 8 of them right up here. And I can just go from one to the next, and then I can let it go back up. And if I want to go to the next one, I can just click this. And now I'm on the second frame. And what I wanted to do here is I wanted to show you what I use Jamboard a lot for, which is bell work. So we used to have bell work workbooks, and those stopped getting purchased. So now we have basically LEAP style questions that I'm using in math. So I'm copying and pasting those images into each Jamboard for each day. And that's what my bell work looks like. The reason I picked that as opposed to copies is because obviously in the beginning of the school year, not all of my kids were in the classroom, and I needed them to have access to it at home. Also, I teach math, and I like to see my kids' handwriting and what they're doing in terms of the actual math portion. So I'm going to show you a tool for that. So if they wanted to actually subtract this in a Google slide, they might have to type it or go to Google Drawing and then copy. In a Jamboard, though, they have a pencil right here already for them. Now, my kids have touchscreen computers in the classroom, but if they don't, they can still use the mouse to write with. So I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick. So I have my pen. Click on that, and I have a pen, have a marker, a highlight, or a brush, whatever you want to use. So let's say we use the marker and I want to pick even my color. So I'll have them actually just write on their Jamboard and then show their work that way. And that way they have something to look back at for bell work for when they take a quiz on Friday. And I also have some proof to see how they're actually doing on the bell work. So if I need to pull them for a small group or anything like that. So this also works really well for an interactive notebook. So a lot of us have interactive notebooks. Well, what if it were a digital one? You could just keep adding Jamboards to it for each lesson. So you might have a slide on subtraction with like denominators, then one with unlike denominators, and you could keep going. And that way you could have those pictures and illustrations and diagrams that you would normally have them glue into a notebook, you could have in Jamboard. So let's say they're writing and they want to erase. Underneath the pen is your eraser. You can just erase. Or you can use the undo button and the redo button to get rid of it as well. This button on the underneath that is just the pointer button. And then you have some other buttons we're about to get to. Okay, so another thing I've used this for is like an agree, disagree discussion in class. So I let everybody have access to this one slide or frame, and they just put their name under whether or not they agree or disagree. Sometimes we'll even have them put their name and then the reason why. That way it's kind of like 4 corners or 2 corners or whatever you want to call it, but it's a digital copy and we're not all moving around. So if I wanted to put my name under disagree, I could use a Post-it note right here, a little sticky note, and just we'll put my husband because he likes to disagree with me. Save. And I have different colors here that I can choose from as well. And it just kind of puts it wherever, and then you just drag it to wherever you want. And this little snowman for each one allows you to edit it, duplicate it, delete it, or even change the order. Do you want to send it to the back, to the front, and so on? So that's the Post-it notes. So you could have a whole class of names on here where they agree or disagree, and then you could open up a discussion based off of that. Math, again, number lines. You can set a background image to look like a graph paper. And to do that, you would go to set background when you're creating it, and you have these options right here. You don't have a whole lot of color options, but they did recently add image options, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. So I just added a graph background and drew on here myself the number line, and they're going to use the number line with their marker to find 3/4 times 2. So they would just click on that, go 3/4, 3/4, and answer. Okay, and that would actually work pretty well for an interactive notebook. Okay, also in science or ELA or even social studies, highlighting and annotating text. It's kind of, we have PowerPoints and we have slides and stuff, but if you wanted them to just highlight and annotate, even if you wanted them to do it collaboratively, this would be pretty cool for that. So they would just go to the highlighter here, right? And click the highlighter color that they want. And let's say my group is green, and I'm going to highlight what I wanted to annotate. And I might put my other pen here and write Y or something so I can annotate the text about what I'm reading. Okay. They can even just underline and things like that. So instead of handing out a piece of paper that's a digital copy of it, they get to annotate, they get to highlight it, and they have access to it wherever they're from, as long as they have internet. That's one thing. I will say, though, that Jamboard does have an app, too, that you can get on your phone, or you can access it through the Google Classroom app. So that's another way that we can use it. And then there's more of a collaborative activity where maybe you're doing a project, let's say, and each kid could have their own frame, and then they would answer these questions. And let's say my group, or I have Christopher Columbus. So I could look for an image, and that's what this button is right here, add an image. And I have different images I could upload from my computer by URL. I could just use a camera, take a picture of something. I could even do a Google image search. So let's go for Christopher Columbus. There we go. So I got a picture of him. Yep, that looks pretty cool. Put that in there. So here's his portrait. Okay, so I've got that in there. And now let's say I want to put his name, right? So I could use a sticky note. It's going to be a little big and a little weird there. So instead, you might use a text box, which is this little T right here. And I'm just going to put his name in there. Hopefully spell it correctly this time. There you go. And then I can start adding more text about information that I have been researching or have learned in class. Another way it can be used is if you want to add some shapes to it. So maybe you want an arrow. Let me know that that's the really important part about Christopher Columbus is his personal background. So each kid could have one of these slides, and I'm going to show you in a minute, but this slide right here, the background cannot be moved. So there's no moving it, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Everything that they put on top, they can move, but the actual background cannot be moved. Okay. So what I want to show you is how to start a jam from scratch. So I'm going to go into my untitled jam, and I'm going to name my jam. We'll just put practice jam. I've named it. And let's say that I want this to be on the water cycle, because Jamboard is perfect for labeling things, anything like that. You would have them circle or draw arrows or label cities, anything like that. This is perfect for that. So I'm going to set my background, and I'm going to find my photo that I found online and saved to my computer. So I want you to think about that. This picture could have been taken from a worksheet, or it could have been taken from a Google slide too. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. So there's my picture, and it's my background. It can't be moved. Kids can't do anything with it, okay? But what they can do is follow the directions, which I'm about to put on there, which is label each step and draw arrows. So they got the directions on there, and they could just get started. They could start using their text box to label the steps. They could use their pen to draw arrows. They could even use the shape arrow to draw arrows or whatever. Okay, so they got a lot of options there. And I'm going to show you in a minute that you can share this as well. Let's say, though, that I have text and I wanted to put evaporation. Well, maybe you didn't want that text, okay? Maybe you didn't like how it looked. You can change the size. There's no font size per se, but there's like normal, subtitle, bigger. But you can change the color of the text and the orientation. Okay.
Hey, Amanda, we have a question while we're talking about, the making of these things. Jamie wants to know, can you insert a pre-made Jamboard into a Google classwork assignment?
A pre-made Jamboard into a Google Classroom? Yes.
Okay. Can you show us that when you're done with this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So here is my practice jam. So we're going to go ahead. And what I'll do right now is that's what I'll show you. So here's a class that I have. It's a fake class. And these are actually Jamboards that I'm going to show you what we did with. But so we would just go to create, and we're going to make an assignment. So this might be my lesson plan here, right? And then I might have my title here. I'm just going to put water cycle here. Add So all your Jamboards, just like all other Google files, go straight to your Google Drive. So you don't need a link for it or a file, or you don't need to download it or anything. So I'm just going to go to Google Drive. And since this is one I just made, it's going to pop up under my recent. Otherwise, you could go to my drive and search for it, or even just put the name in. Okay. So I have my recent. So I'm going to take this practice jam and insert it. Now, when I go to insert it, I have options just like you do with all Google Docs. I can have them just view it, but what's the point of that if it's a Jamboard, right? You want them writing on it or using it collaboratively. If I go with students can edit the file, this is like I put a piece of paper on a group's desk and said, get after it. And they're all writing on it at the same time, okay? If I say make a copy for each student, that's like I handed out one copy to each kid. It's a worksheet. Think of it that way. So if I'm doing this type of assignment, I probably want it to make a copy for each student. If it were collaborative, like my Explorers one that I just showed you, and I had a different one on every slide, then I would want to make that a copy, not a copy for everyone, but students can edit and maybe just say, Johnny, you're going to be slide 2, you're going to be slide 4, and so on. Okay. And that way they know which one to start with. So I'm going to go with make a copy for each student, and you can change your point value or whatever you want to do. I am also going to show you real quick how this can be made into an assessment. So right now I could just assign this, make this an assignment. They can work on it. It could be considered like a science interactive notebook, or it can be considered an assignment that I'm actually going to check. Or let's say that I've been teaching them the water cycle and I want them to label it for an assessment. You could make a sheet up with a rubric, or you could just use the rubrics that you could set up a rubric within Google Classroom yourself. So I'm going to go with create a rubric. You could reuse one. I'm just going to go with create. And my rubric might be label. They got no points if none labeled correctly. And then 1 point if all labeled correctly. Okay. And then just save whatever you're using for your scoring. And it's saving. So that would be the rubric there. So when these get sent back to you, you know how when students turn in work on Google Classroom, you would have access to look at all of these. Now, even if they don't turn it in, you still have access to see them, okay? But I always tell them to turn it in to me. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this. And it shows up under the assignments. As soon as it assigns. There it is. So these are some assignments. This is the one that we just had. And if I open it, you'll notice it goes straight to a Jamboard. Okay. But it's going to have the kid's name up here. So it's going to say Amanda Robinson Practice Jam. And this is my Jamboard. And I can write on it and I can do whatever I want. And then I'm going to turn that assignment, right? Turn in. Can't see it from my end, but you'll see turn in right here, and they'll click that, and then I get the Jamboard to look at, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second too.
Okay, another question from Jamie.
Yep.
I love these examples you're giving, by the way. I do not have laptops for each student. She teaches high school math essentials. Are Jamboards phone friendly?
Phone friendly through the app, absolutely.
Could they go web-based too, or do you know, is it going to automatically open in the app if they were to access it through their Google Classroom app? Do you know?
I don't, but I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, there we go.
Let's see. Classroom. Let me go to my classwork. Tyler Math. And it says it's opening in Google Drive. Can't download opening. I have to open it with Jamboard.
So they would have to do the app too. But the great thing is all of the apps are free. None of the apps are going to, ask them for any kind of payment. No. So any of the Google apps are free. So make sure, if they're going to download it to get those. And then we did have one more question come in from Mr. Williams. Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know too, that's not actually a bad thing that they get the app on their phone, because they have more options.
They do.
Jamboard app on the phone as opposed to the web-based that we're
I do know that I think don't they have the auto draw option? The one where you draw and it will guess your shape and you can like, put it in there. Yeah, that's a pretty cool option. Mr. Williams wants to know could Jamboard replace those big sheets of sticky paper that folks stick on the wall to collaborate on? We're in the middle of a pandemic. We do not want people crowding around, but if we want to brainstorm, could we use this instead?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you could even have it, I don't know what you're brainstorming, but let's say it's just one topic, just one Jamboard, and they all write on it. Or you can break it up into subtopics, however you want, and maybe have one Jamboard, one slide from a Jamboard on I don't know, character, and then the next one on setting or such and such. So there's lots of things that you can do. I look at it as exactly that. It's a giant board. We can all write on it at the same time. I could have my own board to write on, or I could just view it, but there's no fun in that.
Awesome. Okay. I'll let you get back to talking.
Okay. So the last thing, or second last thing I want to show you is what they look like when they're assigned and sent back to me. Okay. So here was an exit slip, and I'm just going to pull it open so you can see what it looked like. So when this person opened this, they saw a skiers assessment with their names in front of it. Okay. And this right here, not movable, this was a background image that I took from a leap practice test. So I set it as my background, and then I just put my shape, or actually I copied and pasted a shape here, inserted an image, and then I can just duplicate it. So this person was able to drag and drop this check mark to answer this leap question. Okay. And then they turned it into me. So when they went to turn it into me, I went to grades, and right here, I clicked on exit slip, and I clicked on Morgan's. And right there, it pulls it up. Here's her answer. Okay. If you do an assignment with just one frame in a Jamboard, I can literally just keep clicking this button and go from one kid to the next, one kid to the next, one kid to the next. If it's more than that, I'm going to have to open each kid's file and look at them separately. I mean, that's not a bad thing either, but typically if it's something that's quick, like an exit slip, I don't need to give them more than one frame to type on or work on. So Morgan's, I would look at this and I would just add a private comment like, yay, or whatever. You can use my audio if you wanted to use Moat to do that too. Okay. And then I would just return it to her. And now she's got that private comment plus her Jamboard returned to her. And she knows that she got all those correct answers. Okay. So that's that. Now let's look at one that came from an assessment standpoint. Remember the one I had with a rubric? That was this one. So this was actually a real assessment that I gave my kids. This is a food web quiz. So I gave them what eats what, and they had to drag the picture around to show where it goes. And then they had to use their pen to draw arrows to show the flow of energy. And then they used sticky notes to put, to label my producers, carnivores, herbivores, omnivores. Okay. They sent this back to me. Let me show you what that looks like. I had a rubric set on this one, much like the one that we made earlier. So right here, food web quiz. This was only one slide, so it's going to be pretty easy for me to go through it. So I'm looking at Morgan's. I'm grading it. My rubric is right over here on the side. Did she draw an arrow for everything? Yep, she got all of that. And if I'm unsure what I did, I can pull this down and see 1 to 2 mistakes, 3 to 4 mistakes, just like you would normally with a rubric. Did she identify each of these? Yep, she got that point for that. Yep, she got that point for that. And then I might put here, great job. Okay. And then return it to her. And now she knows her score for it. She got a grade for it. And I can put it in my grade book. So last thing I wanted to show y'all is some templates. So not everybody wants to start a Jamboard from scratch. Some people like to use templates. These two places have a lot of resources for templates. This is Holly Clark, Edgy through Wakelet. She's got a ton of different template wakes or whatever, but this one, the one that you'll get to when you get here, is all of hers, but there is one just on Jamboard. And then Ditch That textbook with Matt Miller has also got some Jamboard templates. Soon, I'm hoping they will have a version history in Jamboard. You'll press Control-Alt-Shift-H. I have tried it. It's not working currently, so I'm not sure if it's still in production. And that will give you a version history, much like you have a version history on Google Docs, where I can see what kid typed that one sentence at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You would be able to do the same thing on Jamboard. So, does anybody have any other questions?
I think that might be it. I do know there's a little bit of a lag, so we'll give it another 30 seconds or so to see if anybody else jumps in on this.
I loved the whole, like, I'm thinking food chain because we were just working with that one weekend. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. This was good.
Maybe missed the classroom. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like heart banding it so much. I was fifth grade. I'm like,
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the little things that we have to cut out and glue. Yeah. But I also love not missing all of that time that we cut out and glue.
No, it is definitely a time saver. It is a resource saver too, because you always, oh, I don't have scissors, or I don't have glue, or I've cut out all the pieces and I can't find this one little piece. And you're like, really? Right. So that cannot happen, but this was great. I absolutely love it. So many
Jamie, you have questions, because I didn't even know about, I didn't even think about looking for pre-made Jamboards, and then, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff out there. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, they're great for graphic organizers too. So if you want to make a Venn diagram like the one on the screen, they're perfect for all of that.
I think the game changer for them was the ability to set your own background. That was something that kind of made it not as something that you would want to use as much previously, because the kids would constantly delete it and like, I deleted the background, where'd it go? And so it kind of made slides a little bit more attractive. But as a math teacher, you can't draw on slides like with your finger on your screen and that kind of stuff. So it was just sort of like a catch-22. Putting that image in the background is clutch for Jamboard. So
right.
Okay. Well, I think that is it on our questions. So just kind of want to give you another thank you. If you have any questions after the fact, do not hesitate to hit us up. You can email us. You can email Amanda. You can catch her on Twitter right here at @RobinsonMed, and she will be happy to help you out, as so will we. Ladies, anything else?
That's it. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda.
Absolutely. Okay, join us again next week for another episode of Techy Tuesday. We will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.